Today I'm going to speak about reflection of myself or yourself within this tiny little yellow thing, which is me or you or your colleagues or your friends working in the office. And life is great. You have a stability, you have a nice working space, you have a career, you have the thing that drives you every day to meet with your buddies. They take a bus and navigate into the meeting room so you create. And the office is big building, small building. The office is the place you spend even majority of the time when you're really passionate that the thing that you do. Some of the people choose the taxis because there are traffics and there's a parkings, but still everybody is collected together to build a cool stuff. And here goes my senior JavaScript engineer on his new Tesla car, and he's the super pro that I work together. And that all sounds really stable and really good. This is the thing that my parents, and I'm born and raised here in Minsk, used to have day to day, day to day. They got to the space, they meet with people, they produce something, and for them that was new normal, and it's stable, working. But what's the challenge? The first challenge is, and it's a controversial subject for sure, let's speak about that in the Q&A, that we actually request a lot of time of people every day to do a mobility. This time, every day, thousands and thousands of hours should be reinvested into the better life, into the kids, into the hobbies, into the sport. And yet, the office concept glue you together into the single spot. And that's one of the challenges we are trying to break through. The second one is more long-term thinking. When I was born here and it was a Soviet era, the borders were closed. When I was 20 and I was already working in the company which had the opportunity to go abroad, the excitement for me to be somewhere over there was extraordinary. Everybody liked to go different places. Everybody was super fancy when I went to Panama for a business trip. But today, I saw my sister Instagram, and she is Lisbon, Milano, Rome, summertime in mountains, wintertime in Thailand. And this is the new normal. Everybody wants to be traveling as much as they want. At the same time, what they really want is to keep the stability and the career. Is the office helping there? Well, that's a challenge. You either decide that you will take vacation, you go sabbatical, you change the company that has the office in that space, but what about the company who want to continue to work with these people? The digital nomads of the world. That's a challenge, right? The cost and complexity of this is huge. It's growing. Being in Minsk for a while, for 30+ years, we were assuming that the leverage of the construction of the building, renting up the offices will be bearable. Today we're super scaled and the prices are going up and up and up, which is great. This is amazing because it means our life become cooler. But saying ABC, that's a challenge of scale. That's a challenge how we can compete with the change of the mentality of the people. And that's this emotional time spent on the mobility here and there, right? So is it the future that our parents dreamt us to be in? Is it the future that we wanted to be in tomorrow in the next 15 years, 20 years? And of course, it's solvable in the future. There is a portal, no problema. 1 second solves the first thing. Change of the office, but come on, this is a joke. Or, it's not a joke, it's a startup thought to build up. You will unblock gazillion of opportunities, guys. But before we're doing that, let's reverse back why office existed. And the thing that why we're still in this space is driven by the most successful power of the world, which drives the best musician to play great music. best artists to create it, best athletes to do it. It's called muscle memory. The muscle memory that is something to do just automatically because you get to, and you're so professional in this that you basically repeat it over and over and over again until it's become normal. So the office has become normal. And the reasons of why they were is to build up the company, you need the physical assets, or you had to build physical assets in the location of a choice. To pay salaries before, not necessarily today, you had to have a post box at least. Look at the startups' mail addresses. For sure there is an office, right? But shouldn't be so in the future. The complexity of IT. Yeah, some of the IT folks can easily operate from the devices like that. I literally saw one guy programming a patch to a production through the iPhone. I have no clue how he does it. It's probably the file sharing because it's unbearable. Like, I can't understand this. I'm still an engineer. But that's happening. But we are from the enterprise world. We saw how complex systems are built for automotive, for medical, for pharmaceutical industries, for the industries that require you to have a clean room. And it's all the memory that stops being super remote. And that's a challenge, not unsolvable, but it's a challenge today that blocks us from being independent, right? The third one is interesting. The third one tells that people are much more productive when they are in the same spot. The office, a floor, an open space, which is today bombarded by criticism, the war room, and then everybody grab together, jam together, and this is super productive. So when we say to our guys who we call delivery managers that, hey, once you try to do a remote with the best setups, the usual pushback is like, no, 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 no. All the practices telling me physical board, the same guys, they scrum together, they do amazing results, but we cannot find this exact scientist in this building. We can find him or her in Brazil. We cannot find a DevOps engineer in the same spot, but we can easily have them across the globe. So isn't that the controversy of effectiveness of the team or production? Look at you guys, like you probably miss some of the skills when you will be growing your startups or you're in the enterprise. Do you really think that it's not working when you hire somebody really, really pro? Being a little bit separate. Not really. So let's attack this. Legal, operation, and payments. First, muscle memory. I think it's de facto. This is the obvious moment of captain speaking with you, but there are companies that does it. Please, Airbnb, Ubers of the world, Upworks of the world, they're already doing global operation at scale with no physical offices in the town. In Minsk, we have Uber. Yes, it's Yandex, but it's still an Uber. And guess what? You saw on the check when you're receiving, that's a Netherlands company took your payment. Means they have zero physical assets. They have, but for different things. So let's study what this company is thinking in terms of being global. First, and this is a big reflection, that to be able to operate at global scale, you have to be data-driven. You have to rely not on exact people's opinions, not exactly on the limitations of that particular governmental or legal or financial institute in the state, but it's a... And then look at yourself, how well we are data-driven by the nature. Sometimes it's not. The second one is the term Glocal. The global company have a muscle memory to copy-paste. You know how to do it in Belarus, so why not to do the same thing in India? And this will for sure work. Never. So localization of everything and things, being the data-driven, studying the culture, studying the ethics, studying what motivates people is super important, and it goes down to the personal level in the companies that really have the scale. In Uber, every driver is a company. In Airbnb, every flat and every owner is a company. And they treated, analyzed, and carefully selected for the best match. So it's not a thing that we operate in Netherlands. No, we operate with this particular guy who wants to rent his house. Or maybe who wants to build an IT piece, right? And then comparing both two, you still have a lot of paper things. The world is not yet that digital, but you have to do a digital twins here and there. You have to do a virtual contracts. You have to support the payments and all the great startups of the world. Look at Stripe, how well they are progressing. Why? Because they can check payments across the globe easily, no problemo. And this is the digital twin concept, that every single thing is backed up by robotics. Look at Work Fusion. Look at the guys in the room. Talk to each other how well it's automated nowadays. So why not to benefit from this in IT, right? Moving on. Oh, that's a tough one. What we believe in the company I work for, what we observe the future will be, and it's happening today at the scale of person-to-person relationship. Millions of people on Upwork using, well, not necessarily this, but likely this as a personal, heavily operational workstation. iPad becomes the PC. They have mouse. They probably changed the Unix to Linux core to support the mouse driver, but hey, you have an iPad and you have the device to work on, so the bring your own device will be the future of workstations. Challenges and opportunities for you guys, that's unsolvable, it's partially solvable in the world, is to bring the yo for the enterprises. When they say, whoa, that's super protected. We are in just baby steps of the cybersecurity war. Millions and millions of people have a career to crack down the enterprise for IP secrets, for people information. It's super fancy from a programming point of view. It's super efficient when you sell this information. So when you do a really cool stuff, I bet in Nike all the researchers are heavily secured. So if you want to be a researcher but live in Thailand, you cannot just go through your mobile devices and access the public GitHub, although some of the functions will be definitely open source. So whoever first crack on the industry level the security of the personal workstation will win. And there is tons and tons of things that happening in background. Look at the OpSWAT company, what does it? Look at the Luminate protocols. Look at the things that we are now just starting to absorb. And look at the pushback from us. It's like, ooh, it sounds like a police organization scanning me. But in the enterprise, when you're really building up cool stuff, when you're working for Disney or for Pixar and you develop the new big movie, all the information is heavily secured because that's a big thing. If somebody stole your brilliant idea how to draw a mind through the 5 characters. So it's unavoidable, but this is the scaling piece. This is the new frontier that we have to crack together. It's not solvable yet today at the scale of operations. The productivity. Ooh. Let's take a different angle. Why we're not productive. In the Maslow pyramid that I've created here, Maslow of the world, I think that the base on productivity, for sure, that's the electricity of the Wi-Fi, but then it goes into the skills. That's the base ground. You just don't have a skill, and it's normal, right? To do this job super productive. Or you have millions of dependencies. Because you know, the requirements were not that elaborated. You have an idea, you have no clue how to do it, so the team will figure it out. And then you sit in the middle of your summertime somewhere on the laptop, you're stuck. And how it's helping chat, video chat, you have to do the scan do it, so something that drives the productivity. The unclarity, too abstract. Too creative though. Nobody liked the defined task. But are you really productive when it says, build me something? If you are construction workers and then the guys are coming and saying, hey, build me a house. You can build whatever you want, right? But will it be accepted? Is it productive? Won't you spend time then to rebuild? Of course you don't build on the floor, but maybe the guys who are dreaming for the full-blown French windows instead of the normal one here. And the same with the IT. You build, 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 and you sound super energetic, freedom, and professional, and then client said, meh, let's rebuild. This is where the productivity goes down. The second one, the top two is the process. Sometimes we're stuck, but hopefully the work had cracked that. Assembly line nowadays, automated, super cool. You have the stability to commit. It's going into the build cycles. It's deployable. Netflix deploys every millisecond some patch. Facebook deployed tons and tons and times a day. We can benefit from this. So it's, in theory, it's soft. In practice, you know how it's working, right? But then the thing is, all of this is nothing if we have the behavioral issue. And why productive team in the same room? Because that's a social engineering. You feel more empowered when you see somebody don't care about the role and do everything. You naturally behave in the same way. You naturally become more productive in solving the challenges because you feel that this is the energy. And this is very important because this is what drives the momentum of the same location works. It's not about the skill you will be developing. It's not about the dependency. Dependencies, everything will exist, but the behavior will be stimulated by a crowd. And we are, I would be blunt to say, mammals. We want to grab together. We want the leader. We want somebody to tackle you, grab your hand and go. Remote is tough. Remote is super tough because you feel in isolation. However, research is saying that actually chats are much more intense in terms of getting the answers, and people not really like to cheer up and discuss everything in the open space because, you know, the noise. And everybody was like, shh, 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 shh. Yeah, let's grab up into this room. Send me a note in the chat. I don't know, do a WhatsApp messaging me instead of just shouting in the room, hey, how can I code this simple piece, right? So how did different industries change the behavior? Look at us. The world of a really great person in 50s were, at least in the US, I have a house, I have a career, I have a title. What's today normal? I have a great health, and I measure it through this. I look at this and say, oh, I need to have more steps. I need to jump. I need to do something. And it's become new normal to stimulate behavior at the personal level. We all involved into this more or less. Google drive our behavior, how we communicate. Slack drive our behavior, how we behave in terms of the repetitive messages and storing the content. The thing is, this become new normal. But when it comes to the IT, are we really there? Are we really measure ourselves at the level like the health system does? At the personal level? Are we really will be measured this way when everybody's reflection is, ooh, hold on. What do you mean you scan the application I'm working on and you parse and you navigate? But look at that. Who in the audience had the iPhones? Yeah, a lot, right? So do you use the screen time, or do you enjoy seeing how much you spent on this application or not? Apple announced yesterday they will build this feature into the Mac. Windows has it for years, for sure. Apple is just better in selling. And this is kind of okay. You look at yourself and say, crap, I need to stop Facebooking. I like it, but please, like 16 hours last day, that was too intense. Maybe I'm a content strategist and that's okay for me, but if I'm a normal developer guy who has a deadline tomorrow, probably I spend my time somewhere over there. And this is the new thing. So instead of building up the systems of record, we'll be building a system of engagement at the personal level that drives your personal productivity by having the theory of signals. You code, you complete the task, you commit the code, it's been secured, you worked in this application, you shifted the next application, or you shifted to complete a different subject, and the studies say 25 minutes for a brain to shift into the different area. Look at yourself. What you're doing in 25 minutes, you're half. And everybody wants, except the excitement pieces of this starting up your companies, is to work normal hours. I bet there is a natural reaction to go and work 12, 16, 24. Even Elon Musk probably, in somewhere deep core, think like, how can I be normalized to that? So what we believe is to changing the analog to digital, to crack and build up the startup that allow us to feedback people with the signals that you're doing great, focus on this, focus on that, will be a big, big step to break this habit of the same room, will drive more productivity. Look at the companies. Already a lot of chats are combining everything in virtual things. Look at the VRs. Look at all the movies and the books that will say, hey, it's pretty much the same effectiveness if you are standing, but it's a holograms of us. We have the startup in Minsk who build up the close to real projection of the people. And do you really, really care if you just discuss and you see them? The best remote setup was projected in the Star Wars when the Sith Empire operated global scale at the personal level, giving the feedback, right? We're not there, but we need to think of this, and that's a spot for you guys to maybe plan some of the advancements. The challenge that I want to be bold on this stage is that relatively, health tracking is simpler than the life of the programmer or the life of the creative people. You can have a very discrete units of measure in your body: pulse, pressure, heartbeat, and then try to quantify the essence of a programmer. Is it line of code? Nah, maybe, right? Is it the feature or the story points? We know the drill, right? And so this is the new study that focus on the small companies, on the big companies. What's the essence to be objective with people to say, great job, Superman, desire going to the World Conference, you're top of the top. We in company defined a new career for the developers, which would be equal to our top managers. We call it distinguished engineers. But how to really quantify that? How to not to be subjective that this is just a cool guy who can stand on this and speak about the CI, and he may sound like a distinguished engineer. That's not true, right? And when the person is remote, that's becoming an even bigger challenge. So that's the thinking we have in the company I work for. And that's the thinking I want to see it in front of you, because I believe everybody wants two things: safety. You want to be safe tomorrow, you know what exactly is happening. Otherwise, you're just having adrenaline, lack of adrenaline, and you want to jump off the cliff, but that's fine. It will come back and you want the safety. And then you want the freedom. You want tomorrow to be able to be safe in your track of growth professionally, but at the same time, no matter where are you, you want to be as effective as possible down to your personal level. And this is the concept that if we'll build these stages, we'll climb this Everest of freedom. Ground zero, environment, biggest thing. To be able to have a stable career, not the freelance when you have touch and go, and it's smaller tasks. It's easier to build from any workstation. It's pretty much easy to commit. It's pretty much easy to scale. But to work for the giants that really, really interested in the long-term assignment, in your progression, in the cool jobs with the algorithm, you need to be super safe in your devices. Behavior and software and hardware-wise. That's a baby step, that's a ground zero. The next summit would be digitally native teams, to break this habit that everybody should be sitting together in terms of how the clients, how the investors, how the requester of demands think of a team performance, and also how the team can behave. Not to judge that, hey, I'm sitting here, he's sitting there, we're not protected by the law. No. Let's try to be vice versa. And the rest, the organization should support it. You should not have the friction of getting paid if you just moved. You love Barcelona, so you stand there for 3 weeks, and that's a salary time. You should not wait to get back to get the payroll. Neither if you don't have any cards associated with your life in Belarus, because there is no company, you should still have the stability of your profession. And the same this company, they should be safe in understanding where are you. Is it affecting the operations? Is it cool? Is it working? Is it not working? So this digital thing will go. If we'll crack this, then the office will disappear, right? It's like no office. Or That will become the office, down to the individual level, your personal office of the world. You're free to be anywhere. The company is super safe in doing this. They understand how to do it. They systematically practice in this. It will lead Zoom out to much stable opportunities for the nomads. Because the challenge, Upwork is doing this. I'm pretty much eyes open that there is methodology existed for a while, 10 years, 15 years. Freelancer, Upwork, TopTal, TopCoder. The only thing is, if you're a super smart guy, but you're not necessarily a great self-promoter, the agency will overrule. You need to hunt for your new deal. You need to spend your unproductive time, mobility time, to hunt for your new task, to be fairly paid. And then it goes into the mini agencies that grabs you, take a royalty, find your task, which becomes the office. A bit digital, yeah. But then look at from the company point of view. Are you really relying on the company that does just the marketplace? No. Because you know that the quality has to be controlled. You need to believe that these people will produce meaningful results on the mission-critical things of the world. So that's where we live. We need to be social aware. Some of the people would not like to move. Some of the people cannot go to the office. Some of the people cannot have a work just because we don't have the asset in South Africa. And there is millions of people that are willing to do it. They would be passionate to get the job that they might have in US or UK or Western Europe or even here. So we become inclusive. Becoming inclusive means you get the worldwide compensation, no matter where you live. You're reinvesting back into the services. Look at us. 15 years back here and nowadays. Look at places. Look at services. Look at cars. For damn sake, like I see much more luxury cars in here rather than I see it everywhere. So our life is growing because we are well paid. And to open up, to crack it into the world's level, we'll have eventually a better life. We just need to crack 3 things, right? It's easy. And with this, I want to say that the digital office of the future was my speech. Let me reintroduce myself. I'm Dmitry Razorionov. I represent delivery management office of 30K company called EPAM. And I'm happy to tackle the questions in this separate session. And thank you very much.